Welcome to the webinar, Inspiration RD, the cloud-based solution for delivering Inspiration 10 onto Chromebooks, Mac OS, and Windows. This webinar is hosted by the Network of Assistive Technologists on this Friday, the 28th of May, 2021. From Tech Ed Marketing, we are joined today by Reeza Awoodun. Reeza is the publisher and product specialist for Inspiration 10 with over 20 years experience in the ed tech assistive technology sector, focused on marketing, product development, and product training. Reeza is a return presenter for us here at N.O.A.T. He again shows his dedication to keeping the AT professionals up to date with the latest developments with the Inspiration software. And today, Reeza is here to share some exciting news. So welcome, Reeza, and thank you again for joining us again. And with that said, I want to now hand over the screen sharing to you, Reeza, and have you begin today's presentation.
Thank you very much, Doug, for that introduction, and thank you for having me back again. So let me just share my screen. I can see some familiar names from previous sessions, so great to see you again. And there's others that I don't recognize, so nice to make your acquaintance. So if you just bear a second, I'm just going to share my screen and hopefully you can now see my desktop. So as Doug said, I'm Reeza, I'm the publisher for Inspiration. And so today, what we'll be looking at is Inspiration RD. Now, it is a solution that can run on Windows devices, but it's been particularly developed as a solution for those users that are on Mac OS and Chromebook devices. And so what I quickly want to do, for those of you that may not be familiar with Inspiration, is just to give you a very quick synopsis in terms of what Inspiration 10 is. And that is the core solution that Inspiration RD delivers onto Macs and Chromebooks. So what Inspiration 10 is a visual thinking tool, a graphic organizer, a tool to be able to allow users to be able to capture, synthesize, and communicate ideas visually. And what that does is it allows users, particularly those that may struggle with organizing their thoughts and ideas generation, retaining information, may struggle with the analysis and synthesis of complex concepts, and also may need an alternative approach to note-taking and to support them in terms of the writing process. Inspiration provides an alternative means in which students and users in general can accomplish this. So with Inspiration, I've got some illustrations of different maps that can be created with the software. Inspiration, we're lucky to have two different views. We have a diagram view, which allows you to apply lots of different visual thinking techniques, but it also, because of the fluidity of the environment, the fact that there are no rules, it allows you to be able to create maps precisely as how you want it to be done and created and captured. But it also has a dedicated mind map view. So if you do want to create those more pure mind maps, you can do that. And we have a view for creating those because it's the fastest way to do that. And these maps just really illustrates the types of diagrams you can create. You can create ideas maps, you can create concept maps, and concept maps are a great way of being able to illustrate a particular topic and the multiple different concepts that are involved and how those relate to one another. And then your more pure mind maps where you've got one central idea, one central concept, and you're drilling down further into it. The other bit as well, which is quite a unique feature of Inspiration, is this, what we call the outlining view. So we're not just a visual tool. What we do is, as a user graphically works with their ideas, simultaneously and at the same time, Inspiration is creating a written outline, a clear hierarchy of those ideas and supporting ideas, clearly structured to show the relationships between them from a written perspective. And a student can bounce between those environments as they're progressing. They can start to work visually, flick over to the outline view and see how those ideas are represented in a written outline. So they've got a gist of what that structure will look like when they then say transfer it to Word or to PowerPoint. And this is just a a quote from a particular user who, for them, this is a really powerful feature for them. They really enjoy that switching back and forth between the outline and the diagram, because it allows them to be able to see effectively their trajectory in terms of what their outline is going to look like for that next stage when they then move over to other packages. Now, if you've got any questions, as Doug mentioned, please feel free to put that into the chat. I'll be more than happy to answer them live within this session. And put them into the chat and we'll save them up till the end. Now, what I want to do is, obviously, we've got this video, a very short case study from, originally a student who was introduced to inspiration, but now, since leaving, is now using inspiration as part of her work. And so this is a very recent case study that we published last week. And so I was quite eager just to share this with you, because again, this encapsulates and communicates what a lot of our users, how they benefit from using inspiration. So I'm just going to play this and hear what this student has to say.
Okay, my name is Shannon Shopmeyer, and I'm in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And I just recently finished my studies, 4-year program in acupuncture. I'm 52 now. I started at 48 to change my career. I was in business before. I had set up my whole life in a way that worked for me, but it was very stressful in corporate business for me, and I wanted something that was more purposeful. But I got in there and I found that I was having a great difficulty with memory. I was having panic attacks in school with the teachers. They would be talking and I was trying to find it in my notes and I didn't know how to organize, and my notes were unreadable. And I know they're unreadable. I know that. And so to be able to, and to know that I'm like at the pace that they were hammering this subject matter, I was panicking all the time, because I know I need to absorb it. I need to associate what I know already with it so that it sinks into my long-term memory. And then it's a steel trap. It's there, it's good. But if it's not there and I see the pace that it's coming and I'm like, oh my goodness, and the changes and the stress of changing my whole career at this late stage in the game, it was overwhelming for my nervous system. And I found I was getting behind, and I started having night terrors and panic attacks. Having such a hard time going, I went to the school, and the school had a program, Students with Special Disabilities. And it's just different learning styles and different learning frequencies and things like that. And they offered me this program called Inspiration. And I'm like, oh, anything, because I think in a mind map. That's how I see the world. I see the world in patterns, and I connect things. I was asking questions in class and people are like, how did you even know to ask that? And I'm like, well, it all fits together, like this. And that's how I think. I don't think left to right. Please do not just tell me we're starting here. Give me the big picture first. Mm-hmm. And then I will categorize it and compartmentalize so that I can absorb it. And at the pace it was going, it was brutal. As soon as inspiration came in, I was like, what is this? Because in Chinese medicine, we have to put symptomology and pathogenesis. It's a puzzle. It's a big puzzle. And that's how I see the world. So it was a perfect fit for me, but I couldn't take notes the way that they were teaching it. And I was feeling left behind. My grades were lower than they ever were in my life. I'm a smart cookie, but I couldn't absorb the way they were teaching it. But then when I got inspiration on my laptop, I could take notes in real time in mind maps that were fast. And like I've tried so many mind map programs looking for something that would actually work in real time, that you didn't have to make this giant, I don't know. Anyways, the big flashy balls with colors and quick, easy lines. I was taking notes like a dynamo and printing out charts that I could look at later, and it all made sense, and I could remember what the instructor was saying. all of a sudden, and then I could put colors to it, I was able to do.
Right, I'm just going to stop it there, because then what Shannon goes on to do is just illustrate how she's using this with her clients now that she's effectively set up a practice in terms of Chinese medicine. And so hopefully what that helps to exemplify and communicate is the benefits of inspiration to these users. Students, we have lots of students who have been introduced it, have continued using it into their workplace, and for them it's just transformed their lives. Okay, so oops, let's go back. So the primary reason for this presentation was to talk about Inspiration RD. So Inspiration RD, what is it? It's effectively a cloud-based solution that we've developed to effectively deliver Inspiration 10 primarily onto macOS and Chromebook devices, but equally it can run on Windows as well. But obviously for a while now, there hasn't been a Mac version or a Chromebook version of, well, there's never been a Chromebook version for Inspiration, but there hasn't been a solution for Mac users. And we were very cognizant of that. And in previous presentations, to the NOAT community, that has been fed back to us. And so what we wanted to do was to be able to deliver on that and to come up with a solution for those students and users on these devices. So this is a solution that's built into the cloud. We use various different technologies. Amazon Web Services powers the hosting of it, and several services technologies we utilize from them. We use several pieces of technology from Microsoft. One key one is remote desktop services. And we also use Parallels, which is very popular, particularly for users of Mac and Chromebooks who would like to access Windows applications and in a more native fashion on their devices. So using that combination, we're able to deliver Inspiration 10 onto Chromebooks and Macs. So really what I want to do is explain what an Inspiration RD subscription looks like. It is a subscription service because it's cloud, it's hosted, it's a service that we deliver. And so at the core, obviously, is Inspiration 10. That's what's included. Now, we also include full student licenses of Microsoft Word and Microsoft PowerPoint. These are the desktop editions that are delivered via this cloud service. And when I do a demonstration of Inspiration RD, I'll explain why we've included Word and PowerPoint. And it's really because what we wanted to do was to develop an ecosystem around Inspiration 10 and then the apps that a student would typically be using as part of that productivity cycle. We also offer online storage for files. So obviously as a cloud storage, as a cloud service, we want it to make it convenient to be able to store files. So as well as being able to store files locally as they would do, they can save it into the cloud. And so we use a service from Amazon Web Services called FSX, a managed file storage service. We've integrated that in. And what that means is a user can hop onto different machines. They could be on campus, they could be at home. They'll always have access to those files. Now, just to illustrate pricing, what we're looking at, and currently it's not available in North America. One of the reasons being is that we've only just launched it into the UK market. It has just been approved for, in the UK, we have the Disabled Students Allowance. It has been approved and approved for funding for that. And so we've just, in the last 2 weeks, it's just been rolled out and we're now starting to deliver on orders for that. And so effectively, that's our first stage rollout. And then what we're then looking to do is then roll out to North America. And so those are the prices that for the package itself. So in Canada, 204 Canadian dollars. In the US, it's $169 per annum. And so that just is to contextualize what that pricing is. And part of the reason why asked Doug if we could present on Inspiration RD was to get your feedback, to understand, is this a solution that you would think you would like to offer students within your respective markets. And so I just wanted to obviously be very sort of transparent in terms of the types of pricing. Everything's pegged across in terms of what our UK pricing is. So the exchange rate is what is determining what those prices are in the Canadian and US dollar that I've presented here. And so it is different to our Inspiration for 10 Windows license, because that's a license that you install onto your own device, and it's a perpetual license if it's a single user, and we have different combinations for site licenses, etc. But this solution is obviously a service, and also as part of that we've got Word, we've got PowerPoint, we're offering online storage. So that's why there is a difference in terms of the pricing model. So effectively, by adding this, we now have 3 different solutions that can be offered. 2 that we publish Inspiration 10 for Windows and Inspiration RD for macOS and Chromebooks, but that can also be used for Windows as well. But also through our friends at Diagramming Apps, it's the iOS app, which is Inspiration Maps for iOS. And so Inspiration 10 for Windows is probably still the most, it is the most cost-effective solution for particularly users that are on Windows devices, and also for institutions that are a Windows-based institution. But obviously now we've added Inspiration RD for macOS and Chromebooks, and really this is an accommodation. So, for those users where you find you feel that Inspiration 10 would really help them, such as students like Shannon, for example, then we have created Inspiration RD to be able to facilitate that. And obviously then there's Inspiration Maps for those users that are on iPads and iPhones, and they all work together with one another. For example, they all share the same file formats. A user that's on Inspiration RD, for example, can create an Inspiration file and share that with a user that's using Inspiration 10 for Windows, for example. It is all part of the same ecosystem that's available. Okay, so just really before we dive into showing you a demonstration of the software is to explain how you access Inspiration RD. And basically we offer 2 ways. So there's a desktop client that you can install on both a Mac, a Chromebook, and even a Windows device. And what that requires is obviously installation and setup, but it's not the full application of Inspiration. It's effectively a client app that talks to our cloud servers. Now, what that does require is login details. So there's a username and password, but you only need to enter that in once as part of the initial setup. And what that means is this instant launch from your desktop, and it acts like a desktop. When I go in, I'll show it from a Mac perspective. You'll see how much it feels like a desktop application. The other advantage of installing that desktop client is that it means we can then map to the local drives. So even though Inspiration 10 is in the cloud, it will still be able to open up files that are saved on your local drive. You can also create files up in the cloud and save directly to your local drive as well. So that's one method of accessing Inspiration RD, and that client is Parallels client. The other one is via browser. So you can, on any device which has got an internet connectivity and a browser which is HTML5 ready, so Edge, Chrome, Safari, Firefox, all of these browsers, you can just jump onto it, put in the URL, log in, and you're able to access Inspiration 10 and all of the other apps that we've included as part of the solution. Now, obviously, with a browser, you enter the login details each time. If it's your own personal device, you might get your browser to save it. But obviously on public machines, such as a library services computer, for example, an AT suite, we would recommend that you wouldn't save those login details for security reasons. Now, because it's through a browser, it acts like a web app. And again, we'll go through, show it to you on a browser, and you'll see how it works. But what you'll find with both the desktop client and the browser, it's exactly the same user experience. It's also exactly the same user experience as someone on Inspiration 10 on a Windows device. Consistently throughout all of our through all of these apps, the way you access it, if you're familiar with Inspiration 10, it will be the same whether you are using on a Mac, then on a Chromebook, on a Windows, it will be exactly the same. And you'll see that when I do the demonstration. Now, because it's for a browser, you do need to upload files to the file storage area. And so you have that ability to do that. So it could be graphic files that you want to insert in, video files that you want to embed, PDF files, Word documents, those documents that you want to hyperlink, they can all be uploaded up as well. Okay, so enough talking, and actually let's get into actually showing you the Inspiration RD itself. So I'm now going to switch computers over to a Mac. So I'm going to stop sharing on this machine. So just bear a second. And I'm now going to move over to my Mac. Okay. Oh, let me just, got a bit of an echo here, so just bear a second. Okay. Right. Okay, so hopefully you can still hear me okay, but now see my Mac screen. So with, this is not a very powerful Mac desktop. This is a MacBook Air 2014, so quite an old device on the basic processor that you could get at the time, basic memory. A Chromebook, it would be, you know, anything that you could get, say from Amazon, a £200 Chromebook would be more than sufficient to be able to access Inspiration RD. Inspiration RD, because it's cloud, it means our servers do all of the heavy work in terms of the processing, which means the front-end devices, such as my MacBook, Chromebook, for example, they don't have to be powerful devices. Your bog standard £200 Chromebook would be more than sufficient to be able to access Inspiration RD. So for those students that are coming to you with, you know, maybe old MacBooks or Chromebooks that they've picked up, you know, quite cheaply online, they would be more than sufficient to access this service. So let's now launch it and go talk it through. So once I've installed the client, I'm going to talk you through the client first, show you that experience, and then we'll go through the browser side of things. So this, once you've launched it, you'd configure the connection, you click on here, and it's automatically connected to our server. Now, once you're connected to our server, you'll see all of the apps and our online file storage area that's available to you. So I can launch Inspiration 10, PowerPoint, or Word directly through the client. Also, once you've logged in for the first time, what we'll do, or the system does, is it creates a desktop shortcut on the desktop. It also creates a, I'll close that. It also creates a folder. And within that are all shortcuts to all of the other apps. Now, if, say, for example, I want to see what's in my online file storage, I'll click on here. And in N.O.A.T, as you can see, it's connecting to the server, and it will bring up what will resemble a Windows File Explorer environment. So just bear a second as it connects up. And there you have it, a very familiar File Explorer. Within here, you can create files, upload your files, create files, and also create folders so that you can organize all of your work and launch files directly from within here as well. So this is me peering into my file storage area in the cloud. Just close that, because what we're going to do first is actually launch Inspiration 10. So let's launch it. So again, connect to the server. Now, if you're familiar with Inspiration 10, this is going to look and feel exactly the same because primarily it is the same. On our server, it's a slightly different build, more optimized for delivery via a multi-user environment, but it essentially is the same software. So if you're used to Inspiration 10 for Windows, this will feel exactly the same. And what I'm going to do is just do some quick projects so you can see how quick and fluid Inspiration 10 is in the cloud. So let's go to the diagram view. Again, if you're familiar, this will feel exactly the same. We'll move things around. You've got your symbols library, all of your symbols library, pretty much most of the features that you would expect on the Windows installation is in Inspiration RD and accessible via Chromebooks and Macs. I've got my symbol here. Remember, this is in the cloud. All very smooth, very fluid, no hesitancy there. The speed is pretty much almost identical to me of having installed it locally on my computer. Right, so we're going to do a quick project just so you can see it working. Just some basic stuff in terms of formatting, change the color. And what I'm going to do, this is always a good test. We're going to do a rapid fire. We'll do it with links. So we'll look at chemical structure, states of water, and what else was there? Living things. So all I'm doing is typing and pressing enter. It's creating the symbols with my ideas, with the keywords and phrases that I've entered in. As you can see, I'm moving things around. It's very fast, very smooth. There's no hesitancy. We have got powerful servers, multiple servers that are powering this service. Chemical structure, you can see the red underline. Things like the spell checkers all built in. The word guide all still exists. And you can see it there. I've got my definitions. I've got my synonyms, similar words, or if I had them, antonyms, opposite words. I'm going to change that to chemical composition. Just change these colors around just to make it interesting. And also, particularly from a, there's particularly for those users with neurodifficulties like dyslexia, color is a great way of being able to help categorize information as well as to help navigate their way through a map. Right, so hopefully you can see how fast this is working. Let's look at states of water. We'll use the create tool. I'll set that as the default first. States of water, gas, liquid. So that's using the create tool. Let's drag from the symbols library. Really smooth, very fast. Gas, liquid, solid. Let's use the link tool. Again, just so you've got a comparison. Move that out. Again, all good. Let's expand on living things. We'll search for flowers. Fast reaction. Oh, here we go. Link. Label. Flowers and fauna. And let's insert a graphic. So bring in something that we've saved to our online file storage. So I've got an animated GIF here and drop that in. It will play animated GIFs that's playing back through the cloud. Quick to resize. Let's expand on this. Oh, wrong color. Let's just undo that. Set that as the default now. Expand on it. H2O. Molecules. Add a note. I am adding my notes to expand on my ideas. Let's bring in a video. Again, just so you can see how this is all being powered via the cloud. So we'll look here. We'll just video here, insert video, drop that in. Let's play that back. Oh, I don't think I've, let me just check something here. Okay, it's playing back. I'm not sure you can actually hear the audio. I think the reason being is because I've got two devices. I've muted the speaker on my mic, on my Mac to avoid any feedback, but that's not allowing then the computer sound to come through. Otherwise you'll get a load of feedback. But at the moment, what it will be doing is playing the video, but also playing the audio back as well. So apologies for that. I think it's because I've got my Mac on speaker mute to avoid any feedback, because I've got two devices. Means you're not getting the audio, but it's got audio for that video as well. We have got text to speech. So if you enable that and then click on any one of these items, again, it will read back whatever you've typed in. So that will obviously allow you to, in terms of what you've written. Also, if you're, you synthesize, absorb information better by auditory, that built-in text to speech can be a really helpful tool. And all of the features that you would expect in the Windows version is in Inspiration, in this version, in Inspiration RD. So we've got our outline. We can expand on those ideas. We can edit within here, etc. So when we've done our map and we've reviewed our outline and we're happy with what we've done, we might then want to transfer it to Word. And this is the reason why we have included Word as part of this package. So originally we weren't thinking about that. It was going to be just Inspiration 10. But when we looked at what users found of most benefit, what was helping them in terms of their productivity and helping them to feel that it was a seamless process for moving from Inspiration to Word, was the fact that we have got this one-click transfer. And so obviously we've got our basic defaults here. So if I do OK, I'll save it, which it will normally do. The default is to save it into my online file storage area. If I wanted to, I could save it to my local machine. You see drives on my Reeza's MacBook. I could do it there, but what I want to do is just save it to the cloud, because perhaps later on I want to perhaps work on another machine where I don't have the client and I want access to these files. And perhaps I'm going to access that via the browser. So just do save. It will save it to my online file storage. And this is why we've included Word, because we wanted to automatically launch Word, and then they can feel as if it's a seamless process and they can continue that writing process. So that is why Word is included, and they can then continue that editing process. So wherever they are, whether they've got Word or not, they've always got Word, access to Word within the Inspiration RD ecosystem. And it's a full license, a full desktop license. It's just delivered via our cloud service. Okay, so I wasn't going to dwell too much in terms of all of the features. It was just to really just quickly build up a map so you could see how quick and easy it still is to build maps in the cloud using Inspiration RD. So let's now move over to the browser version. So I'm just going to come out of this, quit this. So it may be that, you know, we do encourage when a user gets their user account, there's a setup guide. And as part of that, you know, we say, you know, go to install the client, and that's quite easy. So if you're on a MacBook, you go to the Mac App Store and you choose to install it, and it will install it on your device by searching for the Parallels client. If you're on a Chromebook, you go to the Chrome OS store, search for Parallels client and choose to install it. So it's a very quick installation process of the client. And then you just put in your username and password and the URL of our server. And so we encourage users to do that on their own device, but we do realize obviously that they might be hopping onto other devices. Maybe they're, you know, they keep their device at home, but on campus, they'll use campus facilities. So they might go to the resource center within the library or go to the AT suite and use a computer there. And so for that, they would simply go to the browser. As I said, any HTML5 ready browser such as Chrome, Edge, Firefox, Safari, they all support this service. So to use this service on a browser, I would simply go to the URL online.inspiration-rd.com. I'll maximize that a bit. Got a very, you know, clean interface. I'll just put in my username and password. So what is it? Just got to remember. Just going to go in with another account. My password and log in. Now it'll keep on asking for this because it realizes actually I've got the client on my desktop. So I'm just going to cancel that because obviously I want to show you the browser version. So we'll just wait for that message to go off. Okay, so we're logged in and this is now accessing Inspiration RD through the cloud. So we've got our same apps, Inspiration, PowerPoint and Word. I can launch any one of these through now the browser. And if I now go in, we'll launch Inspiration 10. And you'll see it's exactly the same. So I could go to the map view, the same exact experience. So even though they might have worked on the client, they go to the browser, they have exactly the same user interface. There's no relearning. There isn't any features that are in the desktop client that are not in the browser. It's like for like. And also, if you're a Windows user, everything that you would expect in the Windows version, pretty much most of it is in Inspiration RD as well. And so I might have been working on a file and I'm going to open up that particular file. So I'll go into my online file storage area. I've got a folder there, bring up the file, and I can continue working with it. So for example, just graph that on. Just again, just to show you how quick it is in terms of working in the cloud. I'll use the rapid fire tool, do attached, what counts. So T, oh, clicking it, tea, coffee, soft drinks, come out of there. Let's just move that around just so you can see how smooth it is. So you've got things like the spell checker still working. Got hyperlinks, so you can still hyperlink to different files, etc. So I can launch that hyperlink. Again, another reason why we included apps like Word, for example. So those common resources that they might be hyperlinking to, like slides, PDF documents, Word, would all launch within Inspiration RD. So wherever they are, it will launch it. Now, in the last example, I showed you transferring to Word. I'm going to do similarly, but now to PowerPoint. Again, the reason why we've included PowerPoint as part of the service. So click on the presentation manager, because obviously this is a working demo. I've got existing ones. I'll delete the existing ones. Got my themes, so I could choose the theme I want, how many containers, speakers notes, whether I want the title slide. Do OK. And so what Inspiration will do is then create a title slide. It will create a contents page of all of my main ideas or concepts. And then for each main idea, it will create a slide. And then any supporting ideas will be bullets within there. And pretty much most of the common features that you would use within PowerPoint to create slides are available within Inspiration itself. It's baked in within the presentation manager. So you can add more slides, you can edit the text, for example, add more bullets, etc. But one of the clever things about Inspiration, and still retained within the Inspiration RD environment, is the fact that it will automatically take screenshots of each key part of my map. So I can then, for each slide, I can choose an appropriate part of my map to support the point or argument that I'm making on a slide. If I've got a slide where perhaps Inspiration hasn't captured a part of the map that I wanted, then I could then go and choose create snapshot, go back to my map. I've got to do this randomly because Inspiration is very good at doing this. Multi-select by holding the shift key. It's probably going to say that it's already done that. Let me just do some stuff. Click the snapshot, accept, say no to that one, don't want another one. We'll drop in that at the top and go back to the presentation manager. I can just drop that in. Now, once I've worked with my slides, I might have added extra ones, edited the text, for example. I might then want to share this, export it out. So I can export as a PDF file or a PowerPoint document. So let's do as a PowerPoint. While I drink water, I can replace an existing one. Again, it's defaulted to saving in the cloud. And if I then, just going to close that, go back to my app screen. So I've still got Inspiration open here, but if I go to my apps menu, I can now open up PowerPoint and open up that document. And as a full working license of PowerPoint, I can continue working within PowerPoint within Inspiration RD. And so what it means is what we're providing is the tools then for them to continue editing their presentation, but also being able to present. So even if they have to present this on a machine that hasn't got PowerPoint, if they can log into Inspiration RD via the browser, they still are able to then present. And they'll always have access to those key tools, either Word, PowerPoint, or Inspiration as part of this service. So hopefully that illustrates and explains why PowerPoint and Word are part of this solution, because we just wanted a whole ecosystem, a whole solution that would support that student. The most common tools that they needed, and which Inspiration 10 is at the core, which is the catalyst for what they're then moving on to Word and PowerPoint, was all there within the service itself. Okay, so that's as much as I was going to show you. Hopefully that's given you a good idea in terms of what Inspiration RD can deliver. As I said, it's primarily we've designed this to help effectively those users that you're supporting that are on Macs and Chromebooks to be able to now access it on those devices through a cloud-based solution. But as I said, it will equally work on a Windows device. And we've had conversations with institutions where particularly because of lockdown, they've got licenses of Inspiration 10, but they had students that are remotely. They, for a lot of our customers, they have remote desktop services they have been able to deliver via that route. But there were some colleges and universities where they didn't have that service. And so what we're doing here is being able to deliver that for them as well. So that is Inspiration RD, hopefully in a nutshell for you. Hopefully you can see that pretty much what we're trying to do here is deliver the same experience across all different devices, and that the richness, the features that are so popular with Inspiration, how, we can deliver that now on multiple devices, whatever their operating system. Okay, so I guess then it's time for questions. So let me stop sharing and then we can go through those questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Reeza. This has been fantastic. Just changing the screen share here for us as I'm looking through the questions, and we have a few that have come in. So as we get underway, give people a reminder to please continue adding your questions or thoughts into the chat, as well as we have the opportunity for you to be able to unmute yourself and ask your questions by voice if that's something you choose to do. So if I'll keep an eye for people to unmute their microphone, and if I see that, then I'll call on you as soon as I'm able, as we're working through these questions. So again, Reeza, thank you for that presentation. You've definitely shown us that there's been a lot of change that's happened in the world of inspiration since we last saw it here as you presenting to NOAT. And I just want to also say that I'm very happy to see that you've taken a lot of the feedback that our membership and the AT community have provided you and incorporated it in there. It's fantastic to see a developer that actually listens to the people who work with the product, and for us to be able to see it materializing at times like this in the finished product. It's fantastic to be able to see that. So again, thank you for that. So working through the questions here in the chat, and again, just a reminder, unmute yourself if you'd like to ask by voice or to add it into the chat. And we'll start with Anne. Anne was asking whether it is accessible for a screen reader like JAWS, and can you also can you magnify the view and change contrast as well for low vision users?
Okay, so Inspiration 10, the core product, is accessible via JAWS. So when Inspiration 10 came out, we commissioned an independent company to do an audit of Inspiration 10. So we have a VPAT document, which if you go to our website and the Inspiration 10 product page, if you scroll down there, you can download our VPAT. And what that does is it will precisely tell you which bit of JAWS is fine with Inspiration 10 and which bits are not so accessible via JAWS. So you got that grading of AAA to A. So it will tell you which particular features. So overall, it will work with JAWS, and I've seen that in action via assessors. You know, we've got the Royal National Institute for Blind, and so I sat in with assessors who have used JAWS because they've got a significant visual impairment themselves, how they've used it, because I was intrigued to see how they were recommending Inspiration. They said, we recommend Inspiration. And I said, well, it's a very visual tool. How does it work for those with visual impairments? And so he invited me in and we went through it, looking at how he was using it with JAWS. And we've got case studies of those users with visual impairments. So one using it with Dragon, for example, and how they use Dragon commands to be able to control it. And they use Zoom as well. What do they use? They use a screen magnifier. I'm not sure if it is JAWS, but they use that as well to be able to help navigate through the software. But I'd say that there are features within JAWS which Inspiration, it's not so, those configurations that you can do with JAWS, it doesn't quite work as well with Inspiration. So that VPAT document is a great way for us to be able to know when we do our next stage of updates, areas that we need to improve on in terms of accessibility for those users of JAWS as well. So So hopefully that's answered that. We're at the moment, because Inspiration RD has just been launched, we have to go through that similar process because if JAWS is on the local machine, but obviously Inspiration is in the cloud via this Parallels client or through the browser, we've got to do that testing to see how JAWS will work with that perspective. So JAWS with Inspiration RD, at the moment, I couldn't, say to you at the moment whether it works or not. We have to do that testing.
Great, thank you for that, Reeza. And it sounds like the RNIB, the Royal National Institute of the Blind, and yourself, maybe we could be looking at some future webinars demonstrating how those who are blind or visually impaired are using your product. I think that's fantastic to hear that, that there's been some case studies there. So just a
We've got
side note, planting a little seed there for you.
Yeah, I mean, I could certainly share one of the cases that we've got. So maybe, distribute that's a PDF case study of a particular user whose son also uses Inspiration. Her son has autism, so he's found that of benefit. So both of them use the software from a different perspective.
Perfect. All right, to be interested. And yes, if you could share those links, that would be great. We'll add them to the resources for the replay page of this webinar. And Anne was just asking further to that, whether about any comments about voiceover on the iOS devices.
I'm not sure about voiceover on iOS. I know the built-in Siri you can use to obviously do the speech to text, but we've never tested voiceover on iOS. So that's probably one that we need to, well, it's not our product, but I'll certainly feed that back through to diagramming apps who are the publishers of the app version.
Okay, perfect. All right, and Roz has asked, do you offer discounts for educational bundles?
So for, in general, we do for Inspiration 10. For Inspiration RD, effectively, because we're only focused on selling this into education as an assistive technology solution or for education institution, we've priced it as an education product. We are offering discounts on terms of the length of the subscription, but to be honest, that has been more geared towards our disability bursary program in the UK, where with our disabled students allowance, they don't subscribe for a year. The funding body will subscribe to 3-4 years. So they've asked for multi-year discounts. At the moment, our pricing is generally based on a per user price, but because we're a small publisher, we're quite agile. So we're quite happy to take on board. If an institution is looking for X number of Inspiration RD user accounts, then we're quite happy to look at that. So a lot of this feedback from this session is to help us to understand what your needs are, and then we can come up with a pricing model that will hopefully accommodate those needs.
Perfect, thank you. And again, that just goes back to showing the responsiveness you as a developer are able to offer to the end user, and the pricing and model and the use case scenarios in Canada. And I know we have some people with us today from the US. At certain points it is quite different and distinct from the UK market as well. So it does help. I'm glad we're able to help you understand that.
Yeah, definitely. We are lucky in the UK. We've got a very generous bursary program, and that may not necessarily translate across the pond to Canada and US. So we are cognizant of that. And so what we've, in terms of talking to institutions, the underlying, if an institution wants to effectively host Inspiration 10 via a remote desktop service, we know a lot of institutions have invested in that infrastructure. They don't have to subscribe to our Inspiration RD solution. They could host it themselves, and we can provide that build, and then the pricing drops because all you're doing is licensing Inspiration and you're taking care of the hosting. So if you are an institution with remote desktop Parallels already, then you don't need to subscribe to our whole solution. You could just subscribe to that inspiration element itself, and then you know, it's a much more economical solution for you.
All right, that last statement you just made, I think, has probably opened up an awful lot of people's ears here today for the self-hosted option too. So that's great to know that that is out there as an option for us to
To be
consider.
honest, I'd rather you host it rather than us. So the only reason we built this is because people were asking us to host it. So
Yes. All right. Jane has asked if there's any changes happened to the templates within Inspiration.
yeah, so so we did a release. So the new version came out in September, and then we did an update in March 10.02. The main update to that was we then refreshed all of the templates that are in there because they were looking a bit ancient. So they've all been refreshed, in terms of look and feel. And we also now we've got an extra 50 templates that have been added. So in total, there's about 150. 100 come built in when you install it. There's another 50 that you can then add to it as a separate pack that you install on. They are what we call work-based templates. So Inspiration is very popular within the workplace as well. So we've developed it for that, but also for students that are on business or marketing courses. So for those that are on those types of courses, or where they're on a course where there's a commercial element, a module that they have to do, that's what these templates are about. And for that, we've worked with a partner called Bigger Plate, who are a mind mapping community. And for that, they helped us to develop these 50 templates that focus on strategy development in terms of SWOT analysis, all of those very popular templates that you might find useful from a work-based perspective. So we're expanding on those templates. And as of our next update in November, they will be fully integrated into the software as well.
Okay, so that's great news there, and glad you asked that question, Jane. Thank you. And just a reminder for people to continue adding their questions into the chat if they haven't already done so, as well as if you'd like to ask a question by voice, please unmute your mic and we'll bring you on. Something I've noticed a couple people have mentioned in the chat here is that they're apologizing if the question's already been addressed or that. Please don't worry about apologizing and ask the question because even if it's just a review, it's always helpful for all of us. So Lyle is wondering if there's any pricing differences for the cloud versus remote desktop versus desktop version. And do you use the cloud and the RD interchangeably? Can you speak to the privacy confidentiality of data? Will you be updating the interface so it looks more modern? So lots of questions there from Lyle. Do you want to take those one at a time, Reeza?
Yeah, and some good questions then. Something I wanted to touch on as well. So the pricing is massively different between the desktop version that you install locally on your machine and Inspiration RD. So, and with the Windows version, it is, if you're focused on Windows, that's the most economical solution that we have. The single user license, which is quite often, we do get a lot of students who get it as part of their bursary. They recommend it, they then come and buy for it and claim back. That's just a one-off perpetual license, a one-off cost. So for those Windows users, that is the recommended solution, because that, off the top of my head, is I think it's 116 Canadian dollars, but that's a one-off cost that they install onto their desktop machine. US dollars, I think that's $89 for a single user license. And then for an institution, we have volume licenses and site licenses. And, that again is the most economical model. Inspiration RD is a subscription model because it's hosted, it's a service that we offer. And because it also includes online file storage and Microsoft licensing as part of it. So that is a per annum cost. And so it's, I think I put into the slides, it was 216 Canadian dollars per year, and which I think was 168 US dollars. So hopefully I'm remembering these figures right off my head. So there is a big difference between a user that's paying for a license on a Windows desktop compared to our cloud solution. Really what we designed this cloud solution for was for those users where you could see that there was an accommodation need. You could see that they could really benefit from Inspiration 10, but they were not on a Windows device. So that's why we've put this together to help facilitate those users. It's not really been designed as a solution for whole institution deployment. For that, the most economical is the Windows installation, or as I said, if you want to host it yourself and you have that infrastructure, then we can certainly give you that Inspiration 10 build that will allow you to do that, because that build is specifically designed for multi-user environments.
Perfect. So one of the next part that Lyle was asking was using the cloud and RD interchangeably, and I think that is where you did demonstrate the being able to access the files through the cloud storage. Am I correct?
Yeah. So the way I've shown you in the demonstration is all cloud-based. So it was either via the desktop client. Whilst it is an installation, all it is a window to the cloud, and allows that sort of mapping with local drives. The browser is obviously purely in the cloud. I guess you could have, and I do have it on my Windows device, I have Inspiration 10 installed locally, natively on my computer, but I also have Inspiration RD on my Windows device for it in the cloud. And I can use that interchangeably because they all produce an inspiration.isf file. So this is where someone who's a user on Inspiration RD who's accessing it can save that file and share it with a Windows 10 user that's on Windows, because the same file format is shared across all of these various different ecosystems that we have. Hopefully that makes sense. I get confused myself between when we talk about Inspiration RD and it's a cloud service, and then we're showing you it running on a desktop, via the Parallels client, that is actually in the cloud. What the Parallels client does is it provides a window into our cloud service.
A window into the clouds.
Yeah.
Can I just clarify that quickly, Doug?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Lyle.
Yeah, I probably poorly constructed that question. Forgive me. I was wondering if the term cloud and RD are the same. Do you use them the same? So when you say RD, is that cloud? When you say cloud, is that RD? And then
it is. So yeah, if I expect RD stands for remote desktop. So as a cloud service. So yeah, when I talk about cloud, it is RD interchangeably.
Okay. But there is no actual, in other words, a cloud web version of Inspiration where I can just log in strictly to like a web page, not through an RD, just a web page, and be able to do Inspiration mapping.
Yeah, you can do that. So the second example I showed was just, actually, if I just share my screen here. Oh, actually, you cannot share.
Yep, you should be able to share, Reeza.
Okay, just trying to do it now. Let me do it. Okay, now I can. If I just show it. So I'm just showing you this now on a Windows machine. So let me just open up a browser. I'll bring that across.
It's one of the cleanest desktops I've seen in a long time. Congratulations.
So yeah, if I can jump onto any browser and just log in. So let's log in with this one. And this is just now running in the browser.
Right, but this is still Parallels. You're still virtualizing it.
It's what Parallel does is it has a HTML5 gateway. So it converts the applications into HTML5.
So that, just to clarify, Reeza, that website that you're on right now, that we see it through your screen share, and you're about to click the Inspiration program. you're running this off of a Windows machine and you're logged into a browser-based interface.
Yep.
So this is the only place that the parallels is involved. And I'm hoping I'm helping here, Lyle, and if not, please feel free to correct in that. But the Parallels version is only used on the Mac computer to allow you to get in to run this website.
So there's two different technologies. We've got a Parallels client, which installs on the desktop of the Chromebook or the Mac or the Windows, if you wanted to do that. And so we're using the Parallels client. We are using Parallels technology on the server to then render the applications using HTML5.
Okay.
Does that help, Lowell?
Yeah. So this is a virtual screen. This is not really a web page run anymore. We're emulating the application through the browser.
You could say that, yeah. I mean, from a browser perspective, it's just HTML5. It doesn't know what it is. It's HTML, JavaScript and HTML5, but the engine on the server is translating it into HTML5.
Okay. So is there any other follow-up questions on that, Lyle, or anybody else while we're on this same topic?
Yeah, no, sorry. I don't want to belabor the point. Please continue.
It's as you mentioned, Reeza, it's a little difficult with all these different configurations to kind of be able to pull it all together and keep it straight. So
Yep.
It is the time to ask now, but at the same time, if anybody wanted to take this discussion offline, I'm sure Reeza is more than happy to do an individual session, demonstration, even demonstration copies of these it's Friday, lost words, programs, and be able to show you how they work real life, and that if you're looking to get more hands-on there.
Yeah, and quite happy to have a techie conversation as well. So also I'll try not to go too much into the technical side of things, so and just sort of describe things from an end user perspective.
All right, well, we're going to ask you in a second here to go a little techie into it. We'll deal with the last part of Lyle's question, which I think is an easier one, and then we'll get into the more difficult and thorny one. Is Lyle's curious if you're going to be updating the interface to look a little more modern?
So that's a continual process. So already, I mean, if you go back to version 9 and then you look at 10, there have been changes. But it's a continuous process. A lot of it is actually based on user feedback. And what we want to do is to do a transition. We have lots of users who, particularly, those that are on the autism spectrum, or those that, what we've got to be careful is we don't do shock and awe and suddenly come up with a completely new interface for them, that they feel as if everything that they expect it to be should be where it should be. So, icons have been updated, and we're looking at each part of the environment and, updating it. So, for example, all of these are updated compared to version 9. The symbols size and the styles were all changed. And, in the next iteration, we're looking at some of the improvements to the map view. The default fonts were changed. So we are making changes, but we're not saying that we're going to do one big radical change. Each update will be updating the interface as we go. Same like with the templates, when we first launched, we didn't update the templates. In our last update in March, we went through and updated those. We did a refresh of all the templates and added more. So it's a continuous cosmetic improvement that we're doing.
Perfect. And I know that I remember one of our previous sessions with you here sharing your options and thoughts and soliciting feedback on the default fonts that you were planning on installing in there. So that was one of the improvements that came directly from as you say, the user feedback. So
yeah, well, I mean, it's a priority, but our highest priority is, and again, it was I think after the last one, where I presented the citation tool versus the dual screen outline diagram. and the vote was to go for a citation tool. So we've taken that on board. That's what we're working on at the moment. So that's our primary objective to add to our November update, is a citation tool to Inspiration 10. So it'll be a free update to our latest version.
Perfect. All right. And last part of Lyle's question was, can you speak to the privacy and confidentiality of data? And I'll include in there, just to clarify, is the storage locations of the cloud-based data as to country and such.
Yep. I was going to talk about this. So this is a good question. And one of the reasons why we didn't immediately launch into North America, we're obviously cognizant of data protection laws in each one of the regions. So currently our servers are in Ireland because that's the rule from our own local data, that it has to be within the EU jurisdiction, even for the UK, even though we're now out because of Brexit. So it sits in Europe for UK and European needs, which means obviously for those of you in North America with your own data regulations, we've got to be cognizant of that. So when we launch officially in terms of North America, we will be looking to set up data centers. So it'll all be within Amazon Web Services, but we'll have a separate data center. Again, we've got to check the rules over, Canada and US, whether it's one data center that can be for both, or whether we have to have one in each jurisdiction. Again, we've got to look at the legal data requirements for that. But before we do go over to your side, we would be ensuring that basically it will be lifting and shifting and taking a copy of everything that we've built to serve the Canadian and US market, and making sure we comply with those data regulation laws. But also we know when we talk to institutions that, there's a requirement that data has to be hosted in the US or Canada. So obviously, if we're going to sell into that region, that's what we've got to comply with. So at the moment, obviously, it's all Europe. But when we launch, we'll be shifting everything across to North America as well.
Okay, perfect. All right. And Roz is asking if there's a projected date for availability in North America.
Okay, so our aim is to launch this in the summer. So most of the development work has been done. Inspiration 10, the build for this is done. It's more a case of this whole making sure that we've got the data centers set up in the respective regions. So it's more about making sure that we've got all of our ducks in order from a data regulation perspective, and to give you guys the confidence that the student data is safe because of this online file storage area, and that they can upload all of their information, files, etc. We are cognizant that quite sensitive data could be uploaded into this hosted area, and so we've just got to make sure that we are fully compliant.
Okay, and just as we're coming to a close, we've got a couple last few questions here that were entered into the chat, and I just want to remind people to get your questions into the chat if you have any that are still unanswered, as well as if you'd like to ask your question by voice, please unmute the mic and we'll get you on. So Roz asked a follow-up question of, is there an option for speech to text when creating or adding notes?
This is something that we're testing. So with Inspiration 10 natively on a Windows device, it's not built in. You would use Dragon, and we've got user guides and tutorials in terms of using Dragon. So there isn't anything that's built in. But what we need to do is look at with Inspiration RD how well Dragon will work with that. So that's being tested at the moment. And also there is a particular company that we work with in the UK that effectively creates a bridge between Inspiration and Dragon to make it much more as if it's natural speech rather than using Dragon commands. So we're talking to them in terms of how it will work through the Inspiration RD interface, because it works. It's a great tool for when you've got Inspiration 10 installed on your local on your Windows device. But again, as it's just recently launched, we're trying to work out how it works with other assistive tech that a student might be using.
That's great.
So I guess it's watch this space.
All right, looking forward to that. That would be a great tool and support option there. I noticed that Rochelle had her microphone unmuted for a moment. Rochelle, did you want to join in and ask a question by voice? Rochelle has muted again, so I'll keep an eye on the participants list here, Rochelle. If you are able to unmute again and want to ask or to type it into the chat. I had oh, Rochelle says she's having some tech issues, so I think the audience is definitely well able to sympathize there with you, Rochelle.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
I did have one question myself, just as we come to a close here, and yeah, again, just a reminder to, if there are any lingering questions, to please add them into the chat, or again, unmute your microphone and we'll get you on. But I was curious for the Microsoft Office components, Word and PowerPoint, that are embedded in this licensing. What version are they? And I'm asking primarily in regards to the accessibility options that are built into Microsoft Office and how they might work, be able to be included and brought in and work together with Inspiration.
Yeah, so it's the latest version of Office 365. So is that 2019? So whatever is the latest version of Word and PowerPoint is installed on the servers.
Okay, and is that a local installation then, or the cloud-based Office 365 type installation?
It's the local, the desktop version that you would install on your local machine is what's installed on the servers and then delivered via Inspiration RD.
Okay.
Remotely.
Do you have any idea as to whether the immersive reader that's in Microsoft Word is able to interface at all with the content?
I don't know. Actually, that's a good question.
I was pretty sure the answer would be no, because there's no connection, and yes, that it would interact with the exported information, but I was also using that as a kind of a little way to slip in a product suggestion there for you to talk to Microsoft and see if you could get the immersive reader to interact with Inspiration content.
Yeah, I'll certainly, I'll have a look at it. So yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. So again, just we're coming definitely to a close here, and with all of the information that Reeza has been able to share with us in the demonstrations today. And just as we do that, not seeing any additional questions being added into the chat or any microphones unmuted, but I just give people a final chance to do that if there is anybody that wants to add any last minute thoughts, questions, comments. Again, by voice or by chat. So seeing a few thank yous coming in here of the webinar overall, Reeza. So that's great, but I'm not seeing any other additional questions as such. So did you have any final pieces of information that you wanted to share, Reeza? Or I know because you are so responsive to the end user and asking and looking for input and feedback, is there anything specific you'd like us to provide to you?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we're very hungry for feedback, particularly on this solution. Obviously, from our perspective, we're keen to roll this out to North America, but obviously we want to understand the challenges. The programs that we operate under the UK, is different to the markets that you're in. So understanding, where you think, this will help, what challenges you might have in terms of recommending Inspiration RD. We'd certainly love to hear about that. If you are thinking about, remote learning, obviously, or putting into place contingencies should another lockdown happen, then we can look at, well, whether you wanted to host Inspiration RD, and in that way that could be a cost-effective solution. So yeah, our doors are open to suggestions, any thoughts that you have. that you have. And I've just noticed there's Russell from McEwen University. It was just that case study that I showed you from of Shannon. She is actually a student from McEwen University, so she just graduated from there.
All right. So there's just a request from Roz and I'm sure others as well. It will be part for you to share your email contact, Reeza, if you
Yeah,
might be able to enter that into the chat, and we
yeah, I'm
will
just doing that
definitely
now.
be adding that into the resource page for the replay. So that'd be great if you could add it to the chat now, so that those who are here can have that. And yeah, so Reeza.Awoodun at techedmarketing.com. So
Yep.
for those who might be watching the replay or that, it's REEZA.AWOODUN at TECHEDMARKETING.com. So Reeza.Awoodun at techedmarketing.com. So thank you for that, Reeza. All right, so as we're kind of concluding here, again, I'm not seeing any additional comments or that other than a bunch of thank yous coming in here into the chat or unmuted microphones. So I do want to just kind of move into the final wrap up here, Reeza. And I want to thank you for joining us again. It's always a pleasure to have you back and see the developments and be able to provide you with feedback, and then to see that feedback actually materialize. As I think I mentioned earlier, it's fantastic to be able to see that come full circle and hear about all of the exciting opportunities that are coming up with your product developments. And Russell just added into the chat that colleague Lisa is there, and I guess Russell and Lisa and the student have had interactions and connections. So that's great to see the real life impact, even with our members here and our Canadian students. So that's great.
Yeah, the feedback from the NOAT community is very important to us. So a lot of the inspiration into 10, a lot of our decisions has come through feedback from these sessions. A lot of the feedback that comes through from presenting today will go into how, we can configure and launch Inspiration RD as well. So we're not strictly saying because we've done it in one way in the UK that we necessarily have to do it in the same way for the Canadian and US market.
Perfect. And with that, reinforcing the fact that please, anybody that has any feedback for Reeza, and I know he's sometimes when I've been having conversations about providing feedback in the past on an individual level, as well as on behalf of Canadian assistive technologists, Reeza is very open and willing to listen, even if it's sometimes a little harsh and potentially not what he wanted to hear or what he expected to hear. And he's very open and yeah, I just encourage anybody and everybody to definitely follow up with Reeza and provide any and all feedback and thoughts and comments to him directly, either by email or having a conversation and potentially a screen share and testing out some of the things that are in the versions, the RD version or that. That's the only way we're going to make things better, because this information that we've got here today and the information we provide you, Reeza, no doubt it's going to further assist each of us as well as yourself, so we can better serve those that we support and the communities we're part of. And that selfishly saying for the Canadians and the US assistive tech community, but as well as I'm sure that some of it funnels back to the UK market as well. So all right. So again, thank you for sharing today, Reeza. Your continued support of NOAT and the assistive tech profession in general. It's always appreciated, and
Thank you.
I've said it a number of times. We see your dedication to the continued development of inspiration that we once thought was not going to have any continued development. So we appreciate that, and we appreciate the investment that you're making in this product. We look forward to keeping keeping the AT community up to date as to the future of inspiration. So happy to have you back to share more updates and advancements. Seek more input from the AT community in the future at any time. So please stay in touch with us.
Yeah, hopefully next time I'll be able to show you this citation tool. Quite excited about that. So
Yes, and hopefully sometime very soon, maybe even have you participate in a face-to-face conference.
oh, that'd be great. Yep.
Yeah, the world. If
Yep.
Uncle COVID and his uninvited guests finally decide to leave the dinner table.
Yeah.
So get you across the pond after all. And so, all right. So lastly, for everyone here today, thank you for joining us. And as always, remember, you can't spell education without AT. So until next time, take care and stay safe.